We have Barry Schwartz today with us. Barry is, according to Forbes list of 15 top gurus 2015, Barry is number 5. So we have guru number 5 SEO in the world with us. That's great. Barry, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, Barry, first question. I want to ask you some kind of nostalgic question. 10 years ago, in an interview with Lee Orden, he asked you, you black hat, you white hat, and you said you don't consider yourself an SEO at all. Do you consider yourself it today?
No, I'm not an SEO in terms of you can't pay me to do SEO services on your website. I don't do link building. I don't do content development. I might give you some like advice, fix this, fix that, but I don't really. It's not a part of what my business is. Obviously, I write a lot about it. I write about it on Search Engine Land and Search Engine Roundtable. I run conferences about it. But I don't necessarily or directly sell SEO services like you would see from an SEO company or an SEO expert. I just try to stay away from that just because, again, when I write, I want to be as unbiased as possible. And by selling the service of SEO services, I feel there's some type of bias in terms of your writing. Thankfully, I do have other businesses where I make the bulk of my money in terms of custom web development, mobile development, and some software that I sell on the mobile devices as well as web software. But when it comes to SEO, I definitely do not consider myself an SEO.
Our today conference is on web analytics and usability. What are your favorite tools on it? Do you use any?
I'm sorry, that did not come out well. Can you say that again?
What your favorite tools on web analytic tools and tools on usability?
So some of my favorite tools on web analytics and usability. So I like a lot, obviously, Google Analytics. There's probably no webmaster out there that would say they don't use Google Analytics. Everybody uses it pretty much that I know of. But in terms of analysis, in terms of what I like to look at, outside of the Google Webmaster tools, Google Analytics, and all the various Google tools about mobile friendliness and usability, outside of those, I like a lot to look at the search metrics to see how seriously impacted a large or even small site was regarding a certain algorithm with Google. So Google search metrics basically looks at your SEO or search visibility, and it pretty accurately, in most cases, tells you how well a website, especially a larger website, is doing in terms of the rankings and if it improved or decreased over time. And it's pretty spot on in terms of my analysis of what I've seen. So I like looking at search metrics to see, did eBay get hit? Did Amazon get hit? And stuff like that in terms of algorithms. In terms of other tools I'm playing around with, obviously, not so obvious. SimilarWeb is, I think they're an Israeli company. They do a pretty cool job in terms of trying to measure not just search data and search traffic, but everything from social, referral, and everything like that, including mobile apps, which is a pretty nice tool. I like for looking at links when you try to dig into why a site might have got penalized or what's going on. I like looking at Majestic. I like looking at Hrefs, Moz, Open Site Explorer, and stuff like that. So all those tools I find to be fairly useful in analyzing, at least in terms of what I write about in penalties and Google penalties, analyzing if a site got hit or not. Obviously, I don't always have access to their direct analytics, so I don't always have access to Google Analytics for eBay or whatever, but those tools definitely give you competitive knowledge on what's going on with a website.
Okay, thanks. About your project, SEO Roundtable, it's one of the most important blogs, SEO blogs in the world, and you are founder, as I understand, and it seems to me it's kind of you single-handedly doing it because you have such a lot of stuff, and it's every day a lot of stuff going on. In the blog itself as a project, do you measure any key performance indicators? And if you do, which one of them? And generally speaking, what would be analytics for particular news site project or blog? What analytics would you use?
So I heard most of that. Basically, you're asking if on the Search Engine Roundtable, which analytics tool would I use for blogging? Which would I use for blogging software?
Would you consider some particular analytics which are better for blog project? Do you measure your SEO roundtable is your blog? Do you measure anything? Do you measure your key performance indicators there?
Right. So I primarily use Google Analytics for both Search Engine Roundtable and Search Engine Land. But the key performance indicators that I look at are a few things. Obviously, traffic. I look at my Google traffic and overall traffic. I look at the referrals. I look at social engagement, like are people sharing stuff or plus oneing or whatever. Tweeting things, posting on Twitter. Those are very important metrics in terms of are people sharing my stories on Twitter, on Facebook, and so forth. I look at the traffic that type of stuff drives. I don't look so much at the keyword data as much as I used to because, again, the not provided issue with Google Analytics. So you're not really getting all that keyword data directly from the analytics tools. But obviously, the most important thing when it comes to a blog, in terms of, I guess, ad dollars, is page views, impressions, and that's a very important indicator. I like to look at, are people engaging? So obviously, social shares, comments. I have a lot of comments on some of my stories. I wish I had more time to engage with those readers, both on social and on my own blogs. But I try to engage as much as possible. But comments is a pretty important indicator. Does the story have, one comment, 0 comments, or hundreds of comments? And that's a very important indicator in terms of what I look at.
Again, about your blog, besides having a great content, which you do, besides writing regular, which you extensively do you use any SEO tactics to get more subscribers, to get more clients or more readers? Everybody wants to have more subscribers. Any tactics to recommend?
So I don't have any specific tactics. Obviously, I try to write what my readers are interested in. So I try to find content that they haven't heard about before, that they haven't seen before, stuff that's new, stuff that they might find interesting, that they might want to share. My tactics is really to give my reader something they haven't heard before, or maybe evidence backing up something they've heard before, but they've never seen anybody talk about before. So obviously content for me is the most important tactic, giving users content they've never seen before, so that's stuff they want to share and link to and so forth. But in terms of small stuff, obviously there's lots of the basic SEO stuff, title tags, how you word your content, all the other stuff. I am currently looking and building mobile apps. I think mobile apps for a publishing site are going to be very, very important, especially with iOS 9 that was released yesterday with Apple, Google Now, and how Google indexes apps. So the app that I'm building is going to incorporate a lot of app indexing technology. So app indexing features, app deep linking, app indexing, where you could actually produce to Google. It's kind of like a sitemap for Google to know what's in your app. And I think that's the next thing that Google's that's something that publishers and a lot of websites should be looking at in terms of how to get your apps or your content in apps so that Google wants to surface your content in apps. It's not going to necessarily make you rank better, but it gives you another avenue to get into the searcher's mobile device. And mobile is obviously a very important thing, and being mobile friendly is a basic thing these days. But I think the next step is being app friendly, which includes app indexing.
Thanks. Next question about Google Bing and user behavior signals. Do you think they check it in the algorithm actually check user behavior signals? And if they do you know which ones?
So Google has gone on record several times over and over again that Google does not use user behavior. They don't look at click stuff in the algorithm for ranking purposes. They don't look at Google Analytics. They don't look at user behavior stuff. They say sometimes a site that has a good user experience, or most of the time a site that has a good user experience that users like, they go to a lot, they click around a lot, also resembles or correlates to the content and the content on the website. So if a site has really great content that people want to engage with, their signals pick up on the content aspect, which usually often correlates to users being happy with the website. But Google's John Mueller said, and which you guys know, and a lot of other people out there have said from Google, that they do not use user metrics, user behavior in terms of click patterns, bounce rates, all that type of stuff for ranking purposes. The number one reason they say they do not use it is because it's very easily to manipulate. You can buy users for cheap labor to click on stuff and to use your website in a certain way, which would eventually go ahead and manipulate the algorithm and boost your ranking. So they do not like to use user metrics for that purpose.
Yeah, okay. I have a question from audience. What reports in Google Analytics do you track every day? You use Google Analytics, obviously. Which particular reports do you track every day? It's audience question.
In my Google Analytics, what reports do I track every day? So I specifically look at, obviously, overall traffic. I usually look a lot, because I have a lot of traffic, I usually use the real-time reports a lot. I like to look as I post stories, as I share stories, are there spikes, where those spikes are coming from in real time, because it gives me a better look at, in real time, when I should share my stories on Twitter and Facebook, and do certain types of headlines make a bigger impact on click-through rates and how much traffic that drives. So I always like to see when I push something out, tracking to see if the headline changed from, let's say I post in the morning, a headline that's 5 words that's very catchy, and I post in the morning, and then I posted 2 hours later on Twitter as well, which one has a higher click-through rate and maybe why. So I always try to look at that stuff in real time, because it's hard to see. There's obviously tools you can use to track the individual stuff over time. There's a lot of social media tracking analytics tools, but I like to look at it in real time when possible. I look at my mobile traffic to see how that's trending. I look obviously at my acquisition charts to see search traffic, social traffic, and stuff like that. I used to use some very customized reports, but I stopped using that because as Google Analytics got better and better, the reports are kind of baked into it. But the main things I look at, again, is overall traffic, search traffic, mobile versus desktop, social traffic, and then obviously a lot of the real-time reports that I discussed.
I have a next question. You kind of already start answering, because next question would be about A/B testing. In your particular project, you already start answering, saying bigger or smaller. Could you just give your experience on A/B testing? Did you get any real great results on it?
So A/B testing I look at it. So obviously, the types of images you use on your shares. Are the images popping? Are they catching people's eyes? So I post shares without images. I post shares with images. Usually the ones with images get a lot higher click-through rates. That's pretty obvious. Sometimes I play around using animated GIFs in my social shares, and that either gets people annoyed at me because they're annoying to look at. But in general, usually the stuff with images do much better. I don't do any A/B testing on my website directly, like trying different headlines or different content or different images for users that actually land on my website. One is because I post so many stories, it's hard to change that up by going ahead and writing so many different versions of the story based on the user stuff. Plus, it gets a little bit tricky when it comes to making it SEO friendly and not running into the cloaking space and getting in trouble with Google.
Yeah, okay. About blogs and forums all together, besides your one, which one would you recommend, especially taking account the conferences today is about web analytics and usability. So which forum or blog or both would you recommend on the issue?
On the issue of specifically analytics and users?
No?
So I'm more of a search person. I'm not more on the analytics and user side, but Daniel Rosberg, he actually used to be a huge analytics guru. He still is. But now he actually was acquired by Google, or not acquired, but he now works for Google, and he works in the I guess the London office. He has a website called online-behavior.com, and that's a very, very good resource to learn Google Analytics and all that type of stuff around analytics from an expert that really gets into the deepness of that tool. So I would look at that. He also has links to a lot of resources that he likes. He wrote a really nice, excellent book recently um, about Google Analytics and how to use it. So when it comes to analytics, my go-to guy usually is Daniel from online-behavior.com.
Okay, and next question will be about Twitter. I follow you, which is mountain task, to be honest. You producing such enormous amount of useful materials. Okay, besides you, who else would you follow? Who else would you recommend to follow?
In the search space, outside of myself, obviously I produce a lot of the content, but there's a bunch of people. I would follow, obviously, Danny Sullivan. I would follow John Mueller from Google when he shares stuff. I would also follow Gary, which is his Twitter handle is like Method. I would follow, it depends on what you're looking for, organic or paid search and stuff like that. There's a lot of people out there that really know a lot about the space. Greg Sterling, he's more on the news end. Looking through my feed here of people who I specifically follow.
To read it, or do you just follow?
So I have obviously a follow list, and then I have a secret list of who I really follow in the search space, which is kind of like those lists you make, those private lists. And that's what I'm looking through now. There's a lot of people I follow in this list, and I try to catch as much as I possibly can from this second list. But the obvious players, again, is Danny Sullivan. Matt Cutts, not so much. He really doesn't share anything anymore in terms of the SEO space, but John Mueller and Gary from Google. I also like to follow Glenn Gabe. He covers a lot of stuff, both on social and search. Those are the main players, but there's so much out there in search that people could follow. It's hard to just pick out a few. I'm actually follow a lot of people on Twitter. I follow pretty much every single Googler that's in the search space, both on Google Plus and on Twitter. So I try to pick up, that's what I do. I cover what people are saying on social and on the forums. And I have probably close to, over 500 sources that I check every single day in social and on online forums to pick up on new things that people are saying in the space.
How many hours do you work?
I'm sorry?
How many hours do you work to check all the 500 sources? How many hours a day do you work?
Usually that takes me about 45 minutes a day. So from about 7:15 a.m. in the morning in New York till about 8 o'clock in the morning. I built all these tools to make it faster. I built technology to make it a little bit faster.
That sounds magic and unbelievable. Okay, Barry, I have a last question. It's kind of biggish question in a way. We're still in 2015. Something new still might come. But what's your kind of vision of SEO 2015? What's the greatest changes?
The greatest changes. So I think the greatest change that you'll see towards the end of this year, and definitely in the beginning of next year, is around apps and app indexing. I think in the SEO organic space, you're going to see a lot more in terms of how Google surfaces app content from mobile apps on obviously Android and iOS higher, and that's going to happen both with iOS 9 and Google Android M. So you're going to see a lot of that happening, I think, in the future. Obviously, this year, we actually saw a lot around mobile and mobile rankings, the mobile algorithm. That's already early 2015. But I think the next frontier is really still mobile, but it's more about apps. And I think I was a little skeptical early on when Google released app indexing because I thought maybe it might be a fad and they might release it and they might pull it away in a few years. They still might do that. But it doesn't seem like apps are going anywhere. It seems like apps are staying around and just getting stronger. And with Apple and Bing and Google, Facebook, they all have protocols for app indexing. They call it something else. Apple calls it deep linking. I think the real future and obviously, assuming you've done everything to this point that SEOs and webmasters should be doing with mobile and HTTPS and everything else, I think the next thing SEO should really, really look into is app indexing and deep linking.
Okay, thank you very much, Barry, for your time. Well, I'm not out of question, but I understand I'm out of time. Thank you very much, and hopefully we can do it again one day. Thank you, Barry.